my hope is that if Catholics come out to see this movie, they will be recognized. There is, in fact, a Catholic audience out there for these kind of movies, and maybe they can be explicitly Catholic. They don't have to say, I got to appeal to the widest audience possible because Catholics are not going to come out to this movie because Catholics are going to boycott us.
Adrian Fonseca is now with America Needs Fatima. And I saw that he went and watched the film Cabrini. We've talked about the film Cabrini at least on 3, maybe even 4 occasions now.
By the way, my name is Joe McLean. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
We've talked to others about the film who've seen the film, and their reviews all said great things about the film. But now the film is out, social media is lighting up. Apparently, there's a lot of Catholics not happy. What aren't they happy about, Adrian?
I completely understand why Catholics are not happy about it, because I think there was 2 things happening, right? People who had their mindset set up on, this is going to be a bad movie, it's going to be feminist, it's going to be horrible, and then they went to go see it. There was other people who went in saying, no, I know a bunch of traditional Catholics who are involved with the movie. They're telling me everything's good, everything's great. It's a good Catholic movie. And so you have these 2 different narratives going on side by side. And whichever one you end up believing in, you go into the movie to watch. What happens? Well, your expectations are not going to be met. It's simply, that's just what's going to happen. So if you're expecting this to be a 19th century Jesuit biography, but in film form, you're going to be very disappointed. I don't know if you ever read a 19th century Jesuit biography. They are amazing. They are riveting. It's written like fiction. Like it's just like you're at the edge of your seat, but it's all 100% Orthodox, very solid. If that's in movie form, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I'm excited. Let's do this thing. And that'd be an awesome thing. And
they don't make movies like that.
It could be Hollywood garbage. It could be just this Hollywood thing where it's beautiful. Everything's really nice and beautiful looking, but it's all really bad, like Noah. Everybody remember that movie? Horrible.
No.
So
nobody,
those are the 2 different dichotomies that people were going into the movie expecting. But whenever they actually went to go see it, it kind of was not either. It was very good in the sense of the cinematography, the music, the production value was excellent. The script was so-so. It could have been better, but the actual storyline was great. But in terms of the Catholic faith, it kind of pulled back a little bit. They didn't go full bore. And I can understand why. They clearly were trying to gain a wider audience. They didn't want to target just the Catholic audience. And you can actually watch a bunch of Protestant reviews on YouTube, and they're like, I was expecting to hate this movie, but actually, I would recommend anybody to watch it. It's actually pretty good, not too Catholic. And I was like, well, there you go, folks. It's not too Catholic. And so, yeah, there are parts of it, but it's not offensive, though. That's the key point, though. It's not offensively not Catholic. The Catholic faith is in the world. Like, it's clear that Cabrini is Catholic. It's clear there's the Sacred Heart behind her. There are things and images around her. She goes to Catholic churches. It's not like the Catholic faith is avoided. It's simply the case that it's not imbued into the story. It's not about her promoting the Sacred Heart image as she did. There's a few things, I don't want to spoil the movie, but there's a few things that I learned later on that they changed a little bit because it had something to do with miracles and apparitions that Cabrini had that they just didn't include in the movie at all. So
do you know that was one of my questions, was whether or not stuff was intentionally edited out, especially once it gets to, because the film was not made by Angel Studios. So I think that's can be one of the mistaken points on the film. They see Angel Studios badge and they think, oh, this is just like The Chosen. It's a product of the Mormon enterprise. It's not. This film was produced and made, and then they went for distribution to Angel Studios. Do you think Angel Studios might have asked Alejandro, the director, to edit the film further because of the Catholic sensitivity?
I wonder about that too, because there was some scenes where I was like, this is a perfect setup for something really, really Catholic, but then they just didn't do it. You could taste it. Like if you have a Catholic sense, you're like, oh, I know it's coming, and then it doesn't happen. and you're like, oh. So there's kind of feelings that you kind of get whenever you realize that. And there's other scenes that they just don't do it. Like, it's very clear that they don't do it because they just changed the story enough that it's just simply not the case, that they just took out the part about the apparitions that she had, and they don't reference it at all. So there are some things like that. There is also the complaint of the feminism, and that I do have to agree. There is a lot of
really. You're the first person that I've talked to about the film who said that they actually think there's an agenda of feminism. Everybody else I've talked to said no, but you're saying yes.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You can go too far with the claim, but it's definitely true. You could go too far because there are sections where she's like criticizing the bishop, and she's arguing with the bishop, and she argues with the pope. But I'm thinking, Catherine of Siena walked across the world to go and chastise the pope and tell him, go back to Rome, man. Yeah, nuns do that kind of thing, okay? Have you ever spoken to a nun? They're very forceful. They're very strong-willed. And they're going to chastise you the way that your mother chastises you when you're a child, no matter how old you are, whoever you are, it don't matter. So that aspect didn't bother me. That's not the part that I thought was very feminist. In fact, she was very obedient. She would criticize, she would critique, she would question. But then at the end of the day, whenever the bishop or the pope said, this is what you must do under obedience, she said, yes, sir. And she went and followed everything to the letter of the law. That's not what was feminist about the movie. There were just about 4 scenes where she does the feminist I'm a woman, hear me roar lines, where she was like, I am a woman, and things like that. So she would say these lines that were just really cringe, felt out of place, and it just screamed, they just threw this in here just to make a feminist vibe. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe someone's going to be like, Adrian, if you look at the official biography, it says right here that she said that line exactly. It's a quote. And I'll be like, okay, in that case, I'm sorry. I apologize. But just from watching it, it just felt out of place. It didn't feel like something she would say. It felt like they were just throwing that in there to give feminist vibes. So there were about 4 scenes where they did that, and it just threw me out, took me out of the movie, and immediately was like, oh, yeah, International Women's Day, that kind of vibe.
Was it enough? I mean, would you say, is there anything in the film that was like, yeah, this is a deal breaker for me? I couldn't recommend the film because of X, Y, and Z. Was there anything like that? At all?
Not at all. Not at all. 100% not. I know a number of Catholics are going to boycott it because they're like, oh, it doesn't Catholic enough. And then my question is, okay, do you watch movies at all? Because if you watch movies at all, if you go see Kung Fu Panda 4 or whatever other movie, then I don't understand what your position is, because there's no blasphemy. It doesn't depict the Catholic faith in a bad light. It's not anti-Catholic in any sense. It's simply showing the life of Mother Cabrini, and it's not blasphemous against her life either. It's not making her out to be this horrible sinner or this blasphemer or anything like that. There are some things that are imperfections in the movie, sure, 100%. There are things that are less accurate, of course, 100%. Could it have been more pious? Of 100%, it definitely could have been more pious. But was it offensive? No, I didn't think it was offensive, and I think it was amazing. My hope is that if Catholics come out to see this movie, they will be recognized. There is, in fact, a Catholic audience out there for these kind of movies. And maybe they can be explicitly Catholic. They don't have to say, I got to appeal to the widest audience possible because Catholics are not going to come out to this movie because Catholics are going to boycott us. So instead, let's go see the movie. Let's share our voice. Say, hey, I love the movie. I'm promoting the movie. Here are some critiques that I would like to see in the future.
One of our insiders is basically asking the question that, the name of Jesus wasn't mentioned a single time during the film. Is that true?
Now that they mention it, I think that is true. I don't think our Lord's name was mentioned. I know she references God. There's like references, but his actually using the holy name of Jesus, I don't think his name is actually mentioned. I know there is references, and that she says he or God or things like that. But now that they mention it, no, I don't think the holy name was mentioned, not one time.
So how do we feel about that ultimately in the long run? Are we okay with the fact, something you said in the last segment was you've seen some Protestant reviews and they're all like, yeah, this is great, go watch it. Like, so maybe, just maybe, there's some seeds being planted in the hearts of non-Catholics or maybe even lukewarm Catholics that might draw them in a little closer. Is that fair to say?
I really think, and I included this in my review, and like you said, it's the best review out there, and it's the definitive review, and so no other opinions are necessary anymore because I have weighed in. You're welcome. So the situation is that I watched it and immediately went away thinking, okay, I want to pick up a book about her life. And with American Needs Fatima, I'm one of my duties is actually writing our scripts for our different videos. And so immediately I was like, okay, I want to go and get a really good biography, and I want to write a few scripts about her life and see about doing a series on American saints and kind of making this an investigation that we can do. Because I was like, okay, this person's life, I mean, clearly just from what they showed us, she was like the Mother Teresa of America. Like she very clearly loved God, very clearly loved people, and very clearly gave her life for her mission. Was the movie, there was a few excesses, but immediately I was like, I feel like this is an excess. I feel like this is not an accurate representation of something that she really did in this, or maybe in this way. And it made me want to go look up the correct answer. And so I'm hoping that what these Protestants are watching it, they're like, you know what? Catholics don't hate children. The Catholics aren't actually horrible people. They're actually the ones who started the hospitals. They started orphanages. What? Italian Catholics were abused and hated in America? What? Who knew this? I hate to tell you this, but the only people considered Americans in America was the English Protestants, English Anglicans and their descendants, and the French, who were the revolutionaries. That's pretty much it. Everyone else was considered an quote unquote immigrant because they were Catholic, not because they hated people's race, which was a part of it at the time, but mostly because they were Catholics. So and there was an awesome line in the movie where they didn't want Cabrini to hire Italians to work on the buildings. And she goes, we built Rome. I think we can build the hospital. I was like, that's epic.
Yeah, very good. From a production standpoint, though, cinematography, acting, lighting, set design, costume, anything like that, sound, was there anything that stood out in that category, good or bad?
I'll tell you the worst thing about the cinematography. The thing that was the worst, it took me out of the movie. It was too good. It was so good that at times I stopped paying attention to the movie and was like, whoa, that is just like a beautiful shot. Like your eyes just get humongous and you're trying to take in the whole thing because some of these shots, it was like a painting. It was like somebody sat there and they painted the image. I could have just like got a screenshot of that one scene and just took it in. Just on that merit alone, it is worth seeing because it just like raised the bar for Saint movies. It really did. And the music was excellent. The production value, excellent. The acting, the child acting was even good. And I despise child actors. I think it's like 90% of the time, child actors are just not very good. And so they did a great job. The kids that were in the movie, excellent job. The main actress, great job. The men who were in the movie, the bishop, the pope. The pope did a great job of portraying the authority, but also the softness and the gentleness of a father. And they did such a great job of showing the authority structure of the church, showing the respect between the different people, all these different things. They did such a good job with it. The sound design outside of the music was also excellent. Everything about it. The only thing I did not like about it was really the script. The script was not great. I did not love the script. The storyline was fine. The script had some issues. And the other thing I didn't like was some of the editing. It kind of, there was some parts of it that could have been cleaner. They kind of rushed through certain scenes, and some scenes kind of dragged a little bit, but it wasn't distracting. I think that 99% of people would just not even notice it because it does pick up whenever it gets slow, and then when it's too fast, it slows down. So you can kind of ignore it. But the pacing was the other things. But it's really me nitpicking. So the only really two major things was the script and the pacing of the movie. It could have been better. But other than that, I mean, it's worth seeing on that merit alone.
is there a link to Adrian's review? There is. It's on Twitter, and he also posted it on Facebook, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes today, Doug. So there's a positive.
Show notes should be up now, and you can click on them.
All right. There you go, folks.
It is the definitive review, so
The
after
definitive
you read that,
review.
you can
Just
ignore
Google
everyone
the
else's.
definitive review.
You don't even have to watch the
Cabrini.
movie. Just read the review.
That's exactly what I just did. Like, why bother? Why bother?
See, whenever people ask you about the movie, you'd be like, "Oh, I didn't watch it, but here's my opinion on it because you received your opinion already. I gave it to you. You're welcome."
What was that YouTube channel back in the day where like the Thug reviewed all the literature books?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you remind me
I forgot
of.
what it was called, like Thug Reviews, something like that.
Thug reviews or something. Like you're that for movie reviews. There's no need. It's like the Cliff Notes. There's no need. What up, dog?
Can I do the opposite and just like be like super stuffy? I'll hold like a pipe in my hand and I won't ever smoke it, but I'll just hold it in my hand and I'll just be
Rad
like,
Trad reviews film. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need.
that'd be great.
As
That'd be
long
great.
as you're wearing
I wouldn't be
wool,
accepted as
it's
Rad
fine.
Trad Reviews because I'm like, I think that I'm probably lean on the more traditional of most people, especially even online. But at the same time, I'm like, I like the movie. I don't understand why people are holding it to such high standards because if you're willing to watch secular garbage,
Right.
then I don't know why you are going to hate on this movie.
How many people
if
are
your
watching
position
Chosen?
is, I hate all movies unless they are 100% Catholic and Orthodox, then okay, fine, fair enough. But if you're not going to hold that position, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get
Well,
it.
I will say in the defense of that, that it's one thing to go to see a movie about a secular topic and a secular subject and say, oh, this movie was secular. And then another one to say, oh, I wanted to see a movie about a Catholic saint. And they kind of just made her out to be like a strong, powerful woman who's doing things because these people are poor and need help, and not a saint who's doing things for love of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that's explicit. Like, it's a movie about a saint. It should be a movie that has saintly stuff in it. I totally get that criticism. I think that's a totally legitimate criticism, and that's different from going to see a secular movie and saying, well, there wasn't enough Catholic stuff in this in Dune 2 or something. It's like, well, yeah, because it's Dune 2, Like,
I can't wait to see Dune 2. Don't ruin it for me.
I understand that
I haven't
position.
seen it yet either, Joe. But like, that's the thing. It's like,
No.
yeah, spoiler alert, Joe. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
man.
They don't portray the Pope very well in Dune 2. I mean, they don't portray him very badly either because they don't portray him at all. But still, they don't portray him very well.
Didn't make the
They do
cut.
have
Cabrini
they have-
might
they
be
have
more
Pope
Catholic
Benedict.
than Dune 2, maybe. Although actually,
Well, then what- okay,
I have a
then
friend.
what are
I have
we
a friend who
arguing
saw them
about
both, and he said, "I thought Dune 2 was actually a little bit more inherently Catholic than Cabrini was." So I do know someone who said that.
Really?
I know someone
Dune
who said
2,
that.
I watched it, and it gives major witch vibes. Like, it has like this whole messianic story,
sure.
but
I mean,
it's obviously anti-religion. The whole narrative of Dune in Dune 2 is very anti-religion because the whole idea is the Baron Jesuits are crafting.
Did you just say
a
the Baron
religion.
Jesuits?
Yeah, the Baron Jesuits.
Was that
Freudian slip.
That's called
Was that a Freudian
that's called
slip?
a Freudian slip. It's whenever you say one thing but mean your mother. I mean another. The Baron Jesuits.
I'm gonna take a
There you
See,
go.
now you
Freudian
can't
sip of
unsay
my
it,
coffee.
yeah.
Now I can't unsay that. I want to say that for the rest of my life.
the Baron
Baron
Jesuits?
That's awesome. Actually.
Maybe it
But
is
no,
inherently
they
Catholic.
implanted
Yeah, that's hilarious.
religion
well-
into the planet so they could abuse it later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. The whole
Paul
thing,
Turner is not a fan of Cabrini. That's for sure. He would like to see a good Crusader movie. And yay and amen. I, too, would love to see a good Crusader movie, Paul Turner. So let's pray for one anyway. But, the reality is you're not going to get Protestants. You're not going to get secularists to come watch an over-the-top, thorough Catholic film. They're just not going to like one of my favorite Catholic over-the-top films. I would, to create that sort of genre category, I would say is Padre Pio, but the one that was produced in Italy and then Ignatius Press distributed here in the United States with English subtitles. The guy who played Padre Pio also played in the second movie of Narnia. I forget his name, but he was a fantastic actor. Shia LaBeouf did a terrible job portraying Padre Pio, but this
Did you
guy
see
did
it?
a fantastic job. I couldn't bring myself to it.
I didn't watch it. Yeah, I didn't watch it.
I could. I did
was
a
like,
lot of
I heard so many bad things
conversating with
about
people who
it, so
did watch
I
it, but
avoided it.
yeah, no, I did too.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? So,
But how
you have
the point I was
to
going to make
balance-
was how many people are going to go watch those films. I mean, Formed.org has some great saint films. I recommend them. I watch them. They're good for families. But very few people are going to go see those films. That's the reality.
Right. So you have to do a cost benefit analysis, right? Whenever you're making a movie, it's obviously a labor of love, but it's also a financial investment. So how much is the movie going to cost? How good do you want the movie to be? If you want the movie to be amazing Hollywood quality, then you're going to have to appeal to a larger audience because you need to make the money back. So the good news is, as technology has gotten better, the cost of making movies has gone down. So they can make these kind of movies at a lower budget and still for it to be mind-droppingly amazing. So the good news with that is that you can appeal to a more niche audience and still be able to make your money. But unless they bring down the cost a lot, they can't market just to Catholics. So I would love for it to be a very explicitly Catholic movie, and that would be 100% what I would desire. But I understand that it's not going to be. And so the fact that it wasn't, and so I understand the criticism, people saying, oh, but I'm going to go see a saint movie. I want it to be a saint movie. Well, one, they didn't call it Saint Cabrini. They called it Cabrini. And it was also very clearly that it was supposed to be more focused on her. It's like an American story rather than a saint story is what it is what it's marketed as. And that's really what you're going to get. She talks about, well, I won't spoil it, but the way she teaches the kids, she's like, oh, I'm going to teach them English, that they can be good American citizens, but also I'm going to teach them Italian songs so they have pride in their home country and this kind of idea. So yeah, it's just, you have to balance that and recognize that going into the movie, because if you go into it saying, I want to see a saint movie, that's just simply not what it is. It's just not a saint movie. It's not a hagiography. I would love for it to be a hagiography.
But the main character is a Catholic saint. I think you're completely right, absolutely completely right about any movie that isn't supposed to be about someone who was a Catholic saint, because to me, it's extremely disrespectful to Saint Frances Xavier Cabrini, who was a real person, who is up in heaven now. I think it's extremely disrespectful to do a film about her accomplishments in life that treats them as like this secular American whatever story, and completely disregards her love of Jesus and doesn't even mention his holy name once. I think your argument is great for how to make movies that are. It's like, like again, what was Alejandro's last movie, Sound of Freedom? Like put those Catholic touches that are implicit but not necessarily explicit throughout all that movie, so you can get the sense, if you read into it, like, oh, he's doing this like not just because he's doing this because he's Catholic and this is what he believes is the right thing to do. Like, do that into these movies that are on the surface secular about about people just trying to do the right thing, and show implicitly that they're doing that because of their Catholic faith. I think when you're doing that about an actual canonized saint, it's disrespectful to that saint. And that's where I think the criticism is completely valid, to say this is not a good portrayal of a Catholic saint who's in heaven. Like, it's great to be a great thing to do for a secular character and a secular movie, and that's how you sneaky get the Protestants and whatever to say, like, maybe the Catholic Church isn't so bad. Like, do that with something, something that's not a saint,
is that it's I think it goes too far to say that it's disrespectful to Cabrini.
Okay.
Because I think it could be argued that it might be disrespectful to her in the sense of the feminist elements to it. I think that could be disrespectful to Cabrini, and that's my least favorite part about the movie. But otherwise, just excluding that for just a moment, everything else, I would say it's not like they're saying that she's not Catholic or she was completely secular or she's doing this for secular reasons. Like, they still have her being a nun. She's wearing her habit. She has a Sacred Heart image in her room.
Sure.
Like, all these different things are there. It's just not showing her kneeling down and doing these things, not showing the apparitions she had. It's not showing those things. but it's not saying, oh, she's a secularist or she's not Catholic.
Sure.
It's not like Mother Teresa saying to the nun, to the poor dying child, you pray to your God and I'll pray to my God. And nothing like that happens. And so I wouldn't go so far to say it's disrespectful.
Okay.
I can say that there are saint movies that would be.
Sure.
But this one I don't think is. The feminist elements are borderline, I would say. Very, very borderline. I did not like that at all. Made me cringe so bad. But otherwise it was, I don't think that it would go that far to be disrespectful. I also want to
point out Mel Gibson, he had to fund his own Passion of Christ. He put up his own money because he couldn't get commercial support for the film.
Yep.
So he produced it himself, and then he went out and did the grassroots thing in order to be able to bring it to theaters and be able to get the return on investment, which was massive return on investment. I think he spent $100 million, if I'm not mistaken, or 100 something million, and he was over $1 billion in gross box office receipts. So he more than made up for what he invested, but Hollywood didn't want to fund that. It wasn't commercially viable. So he had to prove the case. It was because of Mel's work and effort and role model that Angel Studios stole the idea, and then now you've got The Chosen, which, lots of people go watch The Chosen. Massive quantities of Catholics. I dare argue that the biggest bulk of their audience is probably Catholic. The single biggest chunk of The Chosen audience is Catholic. It's a Mormon project, but nonetheless, Catholics buy into it all the time because every time I criticize it, I get my hand slapped by Catholics who say, Joe, you're so critical, it's so good. So my point being that, listen, as Catholic creatives, it just depends on who your audience is. If you're trying to reach that secularist, if you're trying to reach that Mormon, that evangelical, if you're trying to plant a seed in their heart and show them something of the good, the true, and the beautiful, you got to give them milk before you give them steak. That's the St. Paul method, right? You got to give them milk before steak. So you do that. Now, if your audience is that more hardcore Catholic or that practicing Catholic, I agree. You're going to want to bring more meat onto the bone. But that's not going to be a commercially viable film at that point. So I would say there's room for both in that regard. We need to create both. It just takes resources. It's something we talk about all the time on the show. It takes resources. The faithful have to pay for the ability for Catholic creatives to create these types of films, which is why I believe there needs to be a Catholic version of Angel Studios, 100%. So that we don't have to participate with the other team.
No, you're 100% correct, and I've been talking about this just as long as you have, or no, probably not as long as you have, but the 100%. We need Catholics who have money to invest in these things because money talks. And so if someone said, hey, I have $10 million and I want to donate it to the work of creating the Mother Cabrini film. However, I want to make sure that you're following X biography as a blueprint for this movie. Then money talks, man. If you did that, the movie would be explicitly Catholic. But if they're going to crowdfund a movie, if they're going to fund the movie themselves like this and try to get it to an audience, I mean, simply, if you want to make your money back, you just simply can't rely on say, oh, I really hope the Catholics are going to like this movie because if they don't, they're all going to boycott me and then I'll make no money whatsoever and then I'll never make another film again. Because that's what happened. Even if they try to make a good Catholic film, people are going to watch it. Catholics are going to be like, I hate this movie. They made her slightly toe tall, and so now I'm not going to watch the movie. Don't you know Cabrini was short? And then they won't watch it. They'll tell everybody this was a horrible portrayal of the movie. Nobody watch this movie, and you'll lose all your money.
But my counter to that is my counter to that though is then why make a movie about Cabrini, about Saint Frances Xavier Cabrini? Why not make it about someone else? Why say, oh, well, we want to make a movie about this great saint story, but we can't make it too Catholic because we got to get the fun. It's like, so why do it at all? Why not make a movie about some other character who isn't explicitly a canonized saint? You know?
But what if you're not the audience, Jake? Well, what if you aren't the target? What if you aren't the target? So in other words, the life of Mother Cabrini is very inspirational, very powerful, and it's a wonderful opportunity to target
from Christ
a secular audience, not you, not me, not Adrian.
Yeah, I know, but
And
I'm
most
saying
of
it's
our
like, so
audience.
why do a disservice to the story of a saint who was doing this for the love of Jesus in downplaying that for a secular audience? Why not find another good story out there that's about someone different? So you're
One
not
that
doing a
allows you to put
disservice
the
a
Sacred
saint.
Heart of Jesus on the screen?
Well, why would that stop you from doing it about a character who's Catholic?
Well, they did. They chose a character who's Catholic. Cabrini.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but they're doing a disservice.
Then wouldn't you
to
be
her
doing a
inspiration.
disservice to? I mean,
No.
simply because Mother Cabrini is a saint. So let's say they did a film about Trad Jack Burton, right?
Yeah.
Super good Catholic guy, wonderful
Well, I
Catholic
wouldn't
guy.
go that far, but
I mean, fantastic wool. Smokes only the best weed. Pipe weed, I mean. Pipe weed. Stop, get
Hey,
your head out of
yes,
the gutter.
pipe weed.
Anyway, but wouldn't they be doing a disservice to him if they downplayed his character? If they downplayed his true love and devotion for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Blessed Mother, the Church, and the sacraments? I mean, they'd
No,
be
'cause I'm
doing
not a
just
canonized
as much.
saint.
But it wouldn't matter, because my point is, if you die in a state of grace, you're going to go to heaven. You're going to be a saint. So you're going to be in heaven in the beatific vision as a saint. All saints, only saints make it to heaven. So my point is, no matter what character they choose based on a real life person, they're going to do a disservice to that person, whether they are a canonized saint or otherwise, if they're a solid Catholic. And so maybe to make a stronger argument for what you're saying then, Jake, is maybe they needed to create fictional characters
yeah.
that they could have used for the same purpose of going fishing. I think on the long and short of it, my opinion is, if it's a great, and I do intend to go watch it. If it's a great film, you should support it and you should watch it, even if you are not the intended audience. You should support the effort, the industry, the cause of Catholic creatives and their ability to create beautiful films. Because when's the last time you saw a Catholic, and Alejandro Monteverde is a Catholic, tri-Catholic from what my understanding is, who made a beautiful looking film? Could he do better? Of course, but he's still learning. So maybe the next one will be even better than this
But
one.
what if
So
what if
we
my
gotta support that.
my support of the film goes to more inserting of cringy feminist lines into movies about Catholic saints? I don't really want to do that.
No, I don't either.
Well,
So I really don't
I'm-
want to. I really don't want to support that. Like, yeah, sure, it's pretty, but like,
but
what does that mean?
My hope
I would
is,
argue-
and this is just my hope, obviously I don't know for sure, but my hope is that by supporting this, and by giving them the money they need, they'll be able to have the freedom to be able to just do what they want and not do what they think is financially viable.
Gus DMH points out over on Rumble, says, last night a review of the movie by a Baptist popped up on my feed. I watched it. The guy loved it. His complaint was they wanted more Catholicism. Ouch. Ouch, Gus.
hilarious.
That left a mark,
Right?
bro.
There you go. Like, honestly,
Yeah,
what this
there
is
was
reminding
another
me
cringe
of.
scene where they hold hands to pray, and I'm like,
Yep.
that's not how Mother Cabrini
what
would
this
have prayed.
what this honestly, and again, I'm not accusing anyone of taking this stance, but what this reminds me of is all the arguments for why we needed the Novus Ordo and why we needed to make things more palatable to our Protestant brothers and sisters so that they get interested in the Catholic faith. We
I
need to
don't
be
know. I think
ecumenical.
that's-
We need to.
I
we
think
need
that's
to,
going
we
too
need,
far,
We need to
Jake.
water it down. Like, this is what it's reminding me of. Is that
You're equating
No,
the
I actually
liturgy.
agree with
You're
you.
equating the liturgy to a
No,
movie.
no, no. He's
No, I'm not equating the liturgy to
No,
the
no,
movie. I'm saying the
Yeah.
argument style. No, I'm not equating
No,
the two
no,
at all.
okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
And I actually agree with you. Here'd
Thank you.
be my distinction.
Sure.
My distinction would be I agree with you in concept in terms of like creating it, but now that it already exists, what do you do with it?
Sure.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So if we're sitting together and you and I are making a movie, I don't think that we should water down anything for the sake of trying to reach a better audience. If
Yes.
you and I are making a movie together, then no, I'd say we go full bore. We do everything we can to make it fully and unapologetically Catholic.
Sure.
But the movie already exists. So then what do we do? Do we just like, oh, well, we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist?
Okay. Yeah.
What does that help? What does that do? That's different from the Novus Ordo because whenever you're crafting a liturgy, obviously that's not a good thing to do is say, how can we appease the Protestants?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Latin Mass still exists. And so
Yes.
we can say it's not like the Latin Mass is extinguished from existence, from history. And it's like, oh, all we have is a Novus Ordo, so I guess this is what we got. No, the Latin Mass exists. So if there's like another movie of Cabrini that's way better and is super Catholic and just as good, if not better cinematography, and you have those two movies side by side, well, yeah, we throw away the garbage one, we keep the good one. But in this case, we only have one.
I can see that. I can see that.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.